Welcome in, everybody. Important Nonsense Podcast, the Wednesday show. Uh, Neil Smith, Mike Manning. Mike, how you doing?
Pretty good. I mean, we got football in 24 hours, so
Thank
it's a great time.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Something to finally watch. Uh, Normally, we have a third person, Steve Bonham. Steve is on assignment this week and next. So this week, it's just going to be Mike and myself. We're going to go through all the week one rankings and just try and set. We're getting some weird matchup and flex kind of questions. So a little bit of an abbreviated show this week. And then next week, we have a special guest. So, special guest. Uh, but check us out on patreon.com, patreon.com/important nonsense. You can get all of our rankings. You get access to our Discord. Uh, get all your start sit questions answered. And good luck this weekend. We finally get to say that. We're finally going to do it. We're going to run real NFL games starting tomorrow. And we're done talking. Well, we're never done talking, but we're done talking preseason, and we finally get to actually see where the rubber's going to meet the road. So I'm excited. Mike, sounds like you're excited. But it's week one. Week one, we always do this show, and it's always a very simple thing. Start your studs. Don't get cute because it's week one. You drafted the team. Ostensibly, you probably like it. One would hope. Although I will say I do have one team that I personally drafted this year that I don't like. It does happen periodically. But there are things like that. But by and large, the advice is always the same. Start your studs. Don't get cute. We always get the weird question from the audience week one. Oh, it's week one. Should I start Sammy Watkins? Like, please don't do that.
This is the only time we might tell you, yeah.
It might be, but I would need to see what your other options are because by and large, it's never the right time to start Sammy Watkins. Sorry, Sammy, but we'll see if maybe Alan Lazard doesn't play, right?
Yeah.
But
Things are lining up. It might be.
I know it might be. Well, we'll probably get there properly when we get to wide receiver. But we're going to go position by position, talk about some players that we differ a little bit than the ECR, possibly sprinkle in some players that we're getting questions about either from the audience today or that we've been seeing on our Discord, and really streamlined kind of show. It should not be that hard to be setting lineups in week one, right?
I mean, you wouldn't really think so.
One would.
Like after your draft, it basically set what you're going to do right off the bat. Because in order of how you drafted, generally it fills your lineup like that.
It's pretty rare that it's like how many lineup adjustments could you even really be making?
I mean, I got a couple shares of like Cam Akers, like a keeper league. I have Cam Akers in. I got him for like a 12th or 11th round pick that I'm switching him out for like a Rashad Bateman or a Darnell Mooney just for safety.
Sure.
But, generally you're putting your top guys, whatever your 1 through 6 round picks were, basically are going to be your lineup.
More than likely. And there's another one too that we'll get to in running back. J.K. Dobbins is another one where I'm swapping him out because it's a little too risky for me. But you know your matchup that you're going to play also by this point. So you can kind of make some custom edits this way. But we always get some weird questions, and so we'll start with court. We'll just and as always, as we talk about in the preseason, this is all based on 12-team PPR. So if you're not playing in 12-team PPR, you're going to have to make some adjustments. And if you have direct lineup questions, again, patreon.com/important nonsense, or ask us now while we're live on the show, and we'll be happy to talk to you individually. So here's what we'll do. Let's start with quarterback, and we'll go through it. So I don't know, Mike. For me, I was a little nervous about Trey Lance this week. On paper, it's a decent enough matchup against Chicago. Chicago's terrible. We all know this. I'll be the first to admit it. They've ruined most of my life having to watch it. They're terrible. They're going to be terrible again. So on paper, it's a decent enough matchup. But I will say, I'm a little nervous about this. Trey Lance, to me, for the season, not super worried about it. But for what is ostensibly his first real start, little nervous that things could go. It might take them a game or two to kind of iron out some of the kinks and the speed bumps. So we'll see. I moved him down a little bit in my rankings, is what I'm trying to say. You might not have better options, but I'm little concerned about Trey Lance. Do you have any kind of thoughts or concerns about Trey Lance, or is it just wheels up for you?
I'm pretty content with Lance. I don't. So what's causing you the concern? Is it because it's his first start that he's been the one that's planned for.
Yeah, a little bit. It's
Because
a
he
little
had
bit
a
of
start. He had like either I don't know if it was one start last year or two
He
starts.
did have one. I was going to bring that up. He did technically have one start last year, so it's not his first ever start.
Yeah,
But it's just his first start where it's his job. They've turned the keys over. Don't crash the car, kid. Here we go. Sometimes I like to kind of let maybe a week or two go by. And because of where you had to get Trey Lance, it is reasonable that you might have some better options based on my rankings. And
possibly.
also, it's possible that the Bears could just pin their ears back and just try and rush him the whole day. You just kind of see what happens. So I moved him down to the back end of starting range. It's not like I'm going to sit here and say bench him. You got to bench him. It's just there are a few guys in that. It's not to me. It's not as open and shut. For example, if you go by the ECR, they would tell you, oh well, you should start Trey Lance over both Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott. And for me, looking at that, I'm like, no, I would rather start either Aaron Rodgers or Dak Prescott over Trey Lance.
I think Rodgers is a maybe. Like Rodgers, I would
Rodgers
probably start
playing Minnesota.
Right, Rodgers against Minnesota, just based on their secondary is horrific.
Yeah, it's putrid.
And two, I mean, hey, even if there's no like Lazard doesn't play, and it's just a mix mash of all these different wide receivers that have basically never caught a pass other than Randall Cobb from Aaron Rodgers, and then the two running backs, you still get points whenever the running backs catch the ball.
Exactly.
And I trust the running backs to make a play after the catch perfectly fine.
And I think Aaron Jones is going to catch a lot of balls, just a lot of them in that game especially.
But Tampa Bay's defense does scare me a bit for Dak, mostly because of the front.
Sure.
Obviously they just got Jason Peters on the roster. I don't know if he's going to be able to play or not. He's a 40-year-old left tackle. Played decent last year for Chicago. He was probably the lone bright spot on the offensive line there, which is saying something.
I was just going to say that. If your game today, Mike, is to depress me and just ending the show early, keep going down the line. You're going down because we'll be done soon.
Because we're also sitting there and looking at Dak. So he could be like last year. Obviously, it was a shootout, but I think Tampa Bay lost either one or two corners in that game.
Yes.
Their safety was a rookie. No, second year. So Antoine Winfield.
Yeah, second year player
was a young guy. And so I'm just thinking that they have a full defense now. Their secondary is back to being healthy. And their front seven is Vita Vea's back. They added Akeem Hicks. This will actually come up in the running backs because look out, Zeke. But it's going to be a stout defense. There's no doubt. There's question marks there for Dak. I don't know if he's going to want to run like Lance will want to run. And Lance will sit there and he will. The Chicago secondary is god awful, as you know.
It's all god awful, but yes. The Tampa Bay secondary, I'm less concerned about than you seem to be. I will grant you the left tackle situation,
as well as the number two option on the passing offense for Dallas. We don't know. Is it going to be Dalton Schultz again? Because he was a volume-based receiver last year.
Right. Yeah. And is Michael Gallup going to play? Is the other thing.
He's not going to play.
He shouldn't be, but they keep trotting him out there for practice. And then the other one is if none of that happens, you are talking about rookie Jalen Tolbert possibly being the number two option.
Who has had issues throughout this preseason.
Yeah, not exactly.
He looked great in training camp, but then once he got on the field in preseason, there was some hiccups.
He's got a lot to learn. He's coming in as a very unproven rookie from a small school.
Instead, if you look at Lance, you have the much higher rushing upside because you know that he's much more willing to do it. Dak is supposedly going to be doing it more this year. But either way, Dak was never the biggest when it came to the rushing. He was just a good runner, usually better in the red zone as well. So Lance is going to sit there. He's going to be schemed for him. He has Debo and Kittle and Ayuk all there, along with Elijah Mitchell apparently returning healthy. The offensive line is in good shape. I mean, the interior could certainly use some upgrades, but that's about it. So I would definitely do Lance over both of them.
Okay. I would play Aaron Rodgers for sure, but we are getting from James Devia. Uh, this kind of says it all. As a Cowboys fan, it was sad to draft Jalen over Dak, but the O line is broken down, and Jason Peters is a band aid for sure. And uh, I do recall this from last year too. When the running game can't carry, this has been my argument for years, is that Zeke is the straw that stirs the drink. Zeke makes all this stuff possible. If you don't have an established run game, you're not going to be nearly as effective. And the Cowboys they know this. They're not blind to it. So that's been really the biggest thing as it relates to Dak for me for years is as long as they have the ability to establish the run game, he's great. But that is historically been
Tampa
the problem.
Bay's strength.
Yeah, historically
stopping the run.
Yeah, exactly. But historically that becomes the issue, right? Dak, when they can't run the ball, doesn't always translate. So you might have swayed me on the Trey Lance over Dak between the two of you, but I'd still play Aaron Rodgers. I'd still go with Rodgers. But let's talk about. I think we've beaten that topic into the ground. Let's take a look at a different quarterback. So the other one that I'm a little nervous on, I'm a little iffy on, is just Matthew Stafford. Just gotta be first game of the year. I don't care that it's on Thursday night in this case. Normally we always try to fade the Thursday night game. Doesn't matter in this case because it's the first game of the year. But little nervous about it, just matchup related. I've got Stafford lower in my rankings than I normally would have if he wasn't playing the Bills. So I'm a little nervous about that. You probably have a better option than Matthew Stafford, but I'm talking about even for me, there's a couple things that I'd be looking at that I'm a little more bullish on, namely Jameis Winston and Trevor Lawrence. In a normal world, I don't think I would ever recommend playing either of those two over Matthew Stafford, but in this case, I probably would take a good long look at either one of those because Winston's got that Atlanta matchup. I don't see any chance that Atlanta is competitive in that game at all. I know it's a division game, but their defense is still putrid. And then Trevor Lawrence is probably the more controversial one because they're playing. I'm just going to keep calling them the Washington football team. Just like they're. It's just I'd rather just do that. But so for those two, I would actually have them above Stafford in this case. I really don't want to try and roll Stafford out first game of the year. First game of the year against the Bills. So why am I crazy, Mike? Am I crazy? Am I overreacting?
I think a bit there. I mean, I will say for Stafford, I'm not excited to play him if he is my number one quarterback this week because of all this talk about his elbow and what the game plan might be. If maybe I'm not saying that they're going to get up on Bills or something along those lines and not want him to throw. I'm just curious what the entire game plan is for the Rams in general. Are they going to become? They were never a team that's afraid to run. They would always hammer the ball to the running back. They would normally do it to one running back. They might do it to two this game. We don't know because Cam Akers has been healthy, not healthy, healthy again. And he literally tweeted out saying that, "Oh, I'll show you guys. You'll see Thursday." Cool. I'm hoping to.
Yeah, I'd love to, but
but if you're looking at the matchup with the Bills, I know that they've been stout in the passing game the past couple years, but they also don't have Tre'Davious White yet. So Jordan Poyer is coming back from a hyperextended elbow he got in training camp. He just came to practice, I think, this week. And I just think that they're going to have to throw. So if you're looking at the cornerbacks now, you got Teron Johnson and Kair Elam, the rookie, against Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson.
Yeah. And for those who play along at home, Mike writes the shadow report for our website, the CBWR matchups. So I trust him. There's not any higher authority that I know with this information. He'll know all the matchups.
So you're looking at Teron Johnson, who is a okay player, not bad, but he's the one that also mans the slot. So Cooper Kupp going in the slot, he's still going to get Johnson. I'm thinking that Cooper Kupp's going to have a fine game, but they might, I don't know if they're going to bracket him maybe with a safety, because I could easily see that happening. But with how much press coverage the Bills play, it's easy to see either Allen Robinson out physicaling them or Cooper Kupp doing a double move and burning Teron Johnson.
Well, Mike, I would love that first outcome because I have a league where I have to play Allen Robinson. So I would absolutely love it if you're right about that. That'd be phenomenal.
And I do like Trevor Lawrence. I did like that one. But Jameis is a little nervous for me. First game back from the ACL for like a full game. And he's sitting there. We don't know what this scheme is going to be more run heavy than it was even last year, which it was a pretty run heavy team last year. We don't know if that was because of the wide receivers that were all hurt or just lack of talent there. But actually, Atlanta's cornerbacks are pretty good. A.J. Terrell had a breakout year last year, and Casey Hayward came over from Vegas. So it would be something where, like, Jarvis Landry could certainly have a good game, and I wouldn't find it hard to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know if Michael Thomas is going to keep going into the slot, or if Jarvis Landry is, but
no one knows the answer to that. I could see both of them taking turns in the slot because they both do it well enough. And then we still have the conversation about, is Michael Thomas going to play? I, for one, think he is, unless he has some sort of setback. The wind is blowing that direction.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I mean,
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's the reason why I'm going with it. And my only concern about the Jameis thing, is, are they whooping Atlanta so hard that they're done throwing the ball by the third quarter? That's my actual concern. Is do we get to there? That's my only concern, that we get to there. But I'm not overly worried about. I don't know. I'm not overly worried about the corners. I'm not, and I'm not overly worried about them going more run heavy, because I could very easily see a situation where it run heavy just equals dump offs to Alvin Kamara, which is what it always seems to come back to. No matter who the quarterback is, we seem to wind up there. So
last year he didn't get that many dump offs.
He didn't get as many as he probably should have, because they were screwing around with Taysom Hill after. That's the one thing that always hurts it. That's not going to happen. I will retire, Mike, over that. I will take my ball and go home. I am tired of this conversation about Taysom Hill playing quarterback, so much so that I'll hang it up. But those are the two that I have my eye on for this week. If you were nervous about a Stafford or something like that, that's where I would go. I'm a little higher than them on average. It sounds like for you, probably roll with Stafford over either one of them. And I appreciate James is joining us here today. James also had brought up as it relates to this conversation. So fair enough. Calling them dice rolls. By the way, I am aware that my rankings in this instance do break with consensus. So it's a thank you, JMac12. Joe, I appreciate you coming in and adding some levity. But for me, I'm aware. I'm against consensus on this. Consensus would tell you if you had to play Stafford. Consensus would also tell you to play Derek Carr over Stafford or either of the two other players that I mentioned. I don't know how I feel about that either. I understand that's a decent matchup with the Chargers, and they're going to have to throw, and he's got some new toys, but Derek Carr is still over Carr. Me too. I'd rather any of those three guys over Derek Carr. So it is what it is. So you're probably not in this situation, but if we're going through this exercise largely because a lot of people stream quarterback. You know what I mean? If you just completely punted quarterback, a couple of these names could be out there for you, and you could be evaluating one of them. So, Mike, that was kind of where I was going at with week one generally. What about quarterbacks on your side? Do you have any that you kind of want to spotlight before we pivot away and go into running backs?
I know everyone's really the consensus has Lamar Jackson as the QB1 by what seems to be a good margin. If you're talking to most people, and then it's
most experts, he's way out in front in the ECR.
Yeah, so it's like Jackson, then Josh Allen.
Yep.
And I believe then Justin Herbert.
It's Herbert at 3, and then 4 is Mahomes. For consensus, yeah, it's Mahomes, then Hurts.
What? Then Hurts? Bump Hurts up to 1.
Yeah, I moved Hurts up actually in my own rankings.
Right.
Because I just didn't feel like it was worth discussing because Jalen Hurts.
I know.
If you were rostering Jalen Hurts, you're probably starting him.
But I'm just saying that like if you're sitting there and even a DFS type play, Hurts should be a lot cheaper than Jackson. Jackson's going against the Jets.
Oh,
I
for
could
sure
easily
he
see
will
them
be.
just doing the committee running backs and being like, you guys take care of this while we just roll out this clock. And I understand that the Philly could easily do that too, but I don't trust their running backs enough to actually keep moving the ball. So they would sit there, and I think that Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown have a huge connection throughout the game. Dallas Goedert as well. I'm sure that the Detroit secondary is one of the places they didn't address yet or this offseason, really. So other than Jeff Okudah coming back from his, I think, Achilles or ACL, I don't remember. He got it before the season last year. And then you got Amani Oruwariye.
Oh, yeah.
Another guy, if you're going to look like farther down the rankings that you might want to look to play, is Matt Ryan.
Okay.
Going against Houston.
I could maybe see the Matt Ryan thing. I'm a little scared off of that just because of how bad Houston is, and then is that just going to turn into them just pounding Jonathan Taylor at them for 80% of the game because they're playing with a lead? So I was a little concerned about
it's the most talented team that Ryan's been on since probably the Super Bowl.
I was going to say it's either the Super Bowl or the year after the Super Bowl. So it's going to be something like that.
I mean, we don't know if, how this passing attack is going to be, like how often they're going to look to do it. I'm certainly going to think they're going to want to do it more than they did with Carson Wentz because they can trust Matt Ryan to not have the occasional YOLO ball or YOLO fall out of my hand into
or YOLO get somebody killed because I'm throwing it into double coverage type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm excited for Paris Campbell to be the slot guy that Ryan can count on. Alec Pierce and Ashton Doolin are going to make deep plays occasionally, or at least get defensive pass interferences. So, and Michael Pittman's the alpha. So I'm pretty happy with, if I had to play like a streamer type, then Matt Ryan's certainly a guy to look at.
Okay. All right. Well, before we move away from quarterback entirely, we did get a question from the audience here. So I'm also starting Jalen in a couple leagues, James. So yeah, I loved all of that. But deep sneak play, Baker versus Cleveland. Revenge games are where Baker shines. I can't get behind this.
I mean, you mean the revenge games in college? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right.
But in the NFL, have we really had that many revenge games? I mean, I think he got angry at the Steelers one year and then beat them in the playoffs. So congrats.
Okay.
That was good. But that was where the Steelers just fell apart like a card house.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't exactly Baker making plays. It was.
I don't have the cojones for this. I just can't bring myself.
Cleveland's defense is good.
I'm actually recommending Cleveland's defense as a streamer at the end of the show. Not to go like way out of order here, but
yeah,
I'm going the other way. I want no part.
The defense, the actual matchup you're looking at, which often if you're doing a streaming quarterback, you're looking at the matchup.
Yeah.
So okay, he's got McCaffrey still for offensively. Baker has McCaffrey and he has Moore, but there has not been any number 2 option on that offense established yet. It is a just cluster.
And if it's Robbie Anderson, good luck. Good luck with that.
I'm pretty sure Denzel Ward doesn't shadow, but they could easily have him shadow DJ Moore. Denzel Ward just became one of the top paid cornerbacks in the league for a reason. It's pretty good. And also their rookie from last year, Newsome. He had a great year for a rookie. So you're looking at linebackers like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett attacking the pocket real easy on an offensive line that has a rookie left tackle and a strong right tackle with Moton, but then just junk in the middle.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you brought up Myles Garrett because that's one of my main concerns with this whole game is that does Myles Garrett just not eat the Panthers alive almost by himself?
Myles Garrett moves on both sides. If he sits there and lines up over Ike Ekwonu,
I just don't see exactly. I just don't see any scenario where the Panthers are going to find an answer to Myles Garrett in such a way that I would want to trust this for fantasy. So for me, I'm out on this idea. I would rather deal with Matt Ryan that you brought up as far as a streamer, I would rather deal with Ryan Tannehill as a
Yes.
streamer. I would rather deal with either of those two, plus the other two guys I mentioned at the top of the segment, rather
I'd
than
take
go with Baker.
Fields over it. I'd take obviously Lawrence. We said.
I would do Fields. I would do Lawrence.
I'd even debate on like Trubisky.
Can't do Trubisky. Can't go there with
Like that's
Trubisky
that's
for you.
how that's how low though I would be on Baker. Is like
Yeah.
So we only have maybe 4 starting quarterbacks below him, 4 or 5 maybe.
Yeah, I've got Baker at like 25.
Yeah.
So it's like
we're getting pretty low there.
We're getting pretty far down there. So no, I love the question and I love the cojones, but I can't get on with this.
That seems a tough one to be able to stream.
No, I like the narrative though about the revenge games and Baker Mayfield being a firebrand because he is those things, but that whole thing terrifies me. And that to me, we just talked about at the very tippy top of this about start your studs, don't get cute. That to me feels like getting cute. So even if we're talking about it completely within the vein of streaming, but let's move off quarterback and let's get into running back. Let's talk some running backs here. So we would be remiss because we're going to talk about this a lot. I think pretty much every week for the foreseeable future. The Broncos running backs, people just keep getting this wrong. They just keep getting this wrong, and it's just comical to me at this point. And obviously, we've been down on Javonte since the preseason. If you followed any amount of our preseason coverage, all three of us, I don't like to speak for Steve when he's not here, but it's true because he talked about this. So we've been down on them for quite a while. The bigger issue that we have is coming into week one, they've got Javonte Williams coming in as RB13 to open the year, and I just don't see how we're going to get Tim. There we go.
Technical difficulty.
Well, you're fine. Welcome back, Mike. All I was saying is we've been talking about this all preseason, that folks are way overvaluing Javonte Williams. I think all three of us agreed on that multiple times during the preseason, even though Steve's not here. He was in on that conversation. And would you like to guess where Javonte Williams is opening this week in the ECR?
Don't tell me he's an RB1.
He's RB13.
That's still too much.
He's the top end of RB2, and to me, it's crazy too high, especially when you factor in the idea that they're playing the Seahawks this week. So for me, this is terrifying because you're talking about a scenario where you're probably going to have to play Javonte Williams given what you had to invest. So you're probably doing this. But if you're expecting to get top end RB2 out of this, I'm going to keep saying what I said all preseason. You're going to be sad, especially in this game, because they should, by all rights, the Broncos should have that game wrapped up by the third quarter. That game should be over with the Broncos defense and just all just talk about revenge game, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, it doesn't matter. The Seahawks should not be capable of standing up to the Broncos. Weird things can happen. It's pro football. But if this is going according to the way the game script should go, the Broncos should have this thing wrapped up by halftime, sometime in the third quarter. And then what's going to happen? You're going to get a large dose of Melvin Gordon. So if Javonte Williams doesn't score early, there's every chance he's not going to, because they won't even bother putting him on the field for the back half of the game. Because why would you? What's the point? Like, they need Javonte Williams healthy for the season, not to whoop the Seahawks in week one. So he'll be done. He'll be sitting on the sideline, having some Gatorade, chilling out. And they'll put Melvin Gordon in there. Because as much as I enjoy Melvin Gordon, he's not mission critical to them going to the Super Bowl. He's helpful, but he's not like the reason they'll do it. So I've adjusted this accordingly. I've got Javonte significantly lower. I've got him in like the upper 20s. He's like a back end RB2 at best. And Melvin Gordon opened the week at RB like 36. And I've moved him up to the top part of flex. Because that's the way I see that game going. Is the Broncos get out to a sizable commanding lead at some point. And then whenever they go out on offense, it's just Melvin Gordon running the ball. Mike, have I lost my mind? Because to me, I think the public is and the other experts are way off on this one. Oh, bear with us, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, while we reconnect with Mike Manning. We will get that taken care of here momentarily. There we go. We're off to a
So
hot start here, Mike.
yeah, I know.
You're fine. Yeah, right. It's exactly. It's week 1. There's always growing pains. Here's what all I was saying was, am I crazy for lowering Javonte Williams down into the like the upper part of the 20s and moving Melvin Gordon up? Why am I wrong? Tell me why I'm overreacting.
I mean, like, I get it. You are going to have to start him most likely because of just what you gave up for him, as we've said. And we continue to sit there and be like, all right, well, you should start your studs. Well, we can't say start your studs and like have you bench your second, arguably, I think second round pick for most.
No, you're playing him. You're playing him if you got him. It's just
I think
scary.
that there's not as much of a. I don't see the big game coming. I see like a solid game. So he'd be sitting there around like a rushing touchdown, probably like 15 touches or so, 15, 17 touches, like 80 yards.
That's about what I have. My whole point was, I think your audio went out. My whole point was, if he doesn't get that rushing touchdown early,
oh right,
you're not getting a rushing touchdown, and that's a calamity.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to need that rushing touchdown. You're kind of banking on it.
You'll need an inside the red zone type rushing touchdown,
and you're probably going to need it in the first half. Would be great.
Yeah, reports are that like Gordon's going to be the goal line and short yardage back, but like they basically split it last year when it came to goal line and short yardage. So I'm going to be curious if it's going to be like that. Like they're going to just give it to Gordon for some reason. I believe it was Ben Albright, maybe. I could be wrong, but on Twitter he had said that Javonte was more susceptible to being stuffed at the line of scrimmage or negative yardage. They trusted Gordon to be more of the going to get forward.
That was Ben Albright. He's also the one who set off that whole powder keg late last week about the overall split between the two players. People got very upset on Twitter, and I know, shocking, that never happens. People normally keep their composure on Twitter, but no, there was a whole argument that rages on about that. And for example, James chimes in, big believer in him. I only take issue with the second part of that. I don't know that it is a matter of time. That's been my point forever. Is I don't know that it is a matter of time. Within the context of this season, it might be a matter
of time next year.
Maybe, but that becomes the issue with hiring Nathaniel Hackett, who likes to have two backs. So we might get into a very frustrating, and this is what I'm hedging against. It's a very frustrating situation where I also understand your other point. I get all that. I do, but Melvin Gordon is playing in this game. So it's like, I understand why people want to anoint Javonte Williams. And if they were running the team, Javonte Williams would be an every down workhorse back. But I'm very sorry. None of you are doing that. Nathaniel Hackett is running that team from the offensive side of the ball. And he wants two running backs. That's what he did in Green Bay, and that's what they're going to do. So yeah, if Melvin Gordon ever went down, sure, move Javonte Williams all the way up into like the top 10. Sure, go nuts. But for right now, no. And especially as it relates to this game, you're going to have to play him, but I'm not expecting him to return RB13. And if you are, I think you might end up being a little disappointed. So I only have one other one real quick, and this is one other one here that I've got, which is just the Ravens running back situation in general. Just have a backup plan for J.K. Dobbins. I think it's possible he could play that game, but what's the Ravens' incentive exactly to do that? They're honestly playing the Jets.
If you have anything remotely like close behind him in your rankings, I feel like you got to go with it. You got to play the other player. Yeah, you got to go with the other player.
Yeah, I don't see how you're going to play J.K. Dobbins this week. I realize that you probably had to invest a little bit to get him in your draft. I understand this. But the problem is that he's still too beat up. What is the point for the Ravens when they're going to go and just smash the Jets anyway? What's the point in even risking? Maybe he plays a little bit in the beginning if he can suit up, but I don't even.
I think he does hit the field but I think it's going to be like a once every, like a couple plays here, then just to get him on the field, get him
Yeah,
running,
ease
get
him
him
back
hit,
in.
and then
Yeah,
take him out, and then put him back in a little bit later, and then eventually the score is going to get up to be, I don't know, up by 21, 28.
right. At some point,
So
and so
that's a Joe
realistic.
Flacco revenge game that I don't think is going to end very
Yes.
well for him.
Now that's the narrative, Mike. I love it. That's the one. Uh, but you're really just going to be looking at a combination of for this game of Mike Davis and Kenyon Drake. And the
Probably.
problem with that is that I have no idea what the split is going to be on that. Couldn't tell you. So that's how they all wind up in like my late 40s. Because maybe one of them will score. It's possible they both score. It's a game against the Jets that they're going to be winning. Anything is possible within that. But it makes it very hard for me to want to recommend Mike Davis or Kenyon Drake. So I can't really. It's kind of hard for me to recommend any Ravens running back.
You'd have to have some big cojones to sit there and feel any specific way about this Ravens backfield in week 1 of the fantasy season.
Yeah, I just kind of want to fade the whole thing, to be honest. That's just
there's
what
some
we're doing.
situations you just gotta let it play out first. I don't think he's, whenever it comes to an injury or a new situation based on added players or things along those lines, where, like, even take Buffalo's backfield for example. Honestly, I'm going to do everything I can to not play one of those backfield players, whether it be James Cook or Devin Singletary, because everybody's excited about Singletary. He's going to be the RB1. That's guaranteed. He's going to get the most touches. Great. Well, I don't think it's going to be like it was last year at the end of the season. They did that for Josh Allen's health.
Yeah, that's true. They
So
did do that.
if Devin Singletary doesn't get an inside the 10-yard touchdown, I don't think he's going to have basically any value. So you're looking at a similar situation here where it's going to be a split backfield. Bunch of players are going to get touches. Could the player you pick get a touchdown? Sure. Do you want to risk that?
You'd have to be pretty desperate at running back to be
Right.
trying to find a Dobbins replacement that would be on the Ravens. I'm almost positive you're going to have something on your roster that you'll like better. You're going to have to go pretty deep. So, real quick, before we start moving away from running back, those were the two that I'm just cautioning people against. Those two situations, because it's not just two specific players; it's those two teams. Mike, do you have anything at running back that we want to talk about here besides that Bills nugget?
I have two well, yeah, that's a fade for me. But I got two players I'm bumping up that I don't think is going to be too hard to believe.
All right, hit me with them.
ETN and Hunt. I
Okay.
mean, I've already been through my Hunt love of just like Jacoby Brissett's great for him because he's going to actually dump it off perfectly fine, or not care about dumping it off. He'll be happy to do it if the play is not there. And he was the one that, even in half PPR, he had 15 plus points per game, or points in 4 of his first 5 games, with Chubb healthy as well,
Mm-hmm.
and a damaged Baker. I think Baker damaged his arm or shoulder twice by week 6 or whatever. So either way, even if Baker was healthy, still not exactly the most electric offense. But you're still sitting there with Nick Chubb waiting for his boom games. But you also have Hunt that just is the consistent 10 plus points per game guy. Guaranteed basically every time. I think he only had 2 games that he played the full game and didn't get double-digit points in half-point PPR. So I just feel safe about him. And ETN.
So real quick, let's go through the Hunt thing real quick because he's opening the week at 30 in the ECR. So you're looking at about a flex. So here are some names that are going in and around the Kareem Hunt zone. You tell me what you like. Kareem Hunt or Breece Hall?
Hunt.
Okay. Kareem Hunt or Dameon Pierce?
Hunt.
Okay. Well, let's stop naming rookies. Let's stop doing that. Hunt or CEH?
Hunt. But that's close. Just because it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Right.
I think that they might put it on Mahomes' arm rather than on the ground.
So for the record, CEH is the highest one up that I've given you so far. He's 5 spots clear of Kareem Hunt. So we'll go up a little more. Cam Akers.
Hunt.
Yeah, I thought you might do that because of how the Akers injury thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Pretty
I think
nervous.
we'll find the Mendoza line here right now. Kareem Hunter, AJ Dillon.
Yeah, that's like.
Yeah,
That's
see,
right. They're like
that's
they'd be like back to back there.
Okay,
I mean, they're
but
both
based on that, what you're saying is Kareem Hunt is effectively the tippity top of flex running back. He's basically a borderline back end RB2 for where you've got him. So I can't really disagree with that too hard, especially because he's healthy and they're going to use him and they're not going to let him sit out and take plays off and they're going to make him go out there and try and put out tape. They've been very vocal about this. So
yeah.
I think he's kind of made his peace with it and is probably going to have to go do it. And I don't think there's anybody lower than him, with the possibility of maybe Ramondre Stevenson or something like that you would want to put up higher. But that's not really the point of the exercise. So okay. All right. Well, that's Kareem Hunt. Who was your other one? Oh, Etienne. See, it's going to be hard. I don't know how much higher you want to go than Etienne because he opens at 18 in the ECR. So he's already coming in as a upper level RB2.
I'd do him over Chubb.
Ooh, okay. That's already Chubb in the ECR opened at 15. So that's interesting. Would you do him over James Conner?
I don't think I would there.
I don't think I would
really
either.
Close. But it's just he is healthy this game. So he's going into the game healthy, and it's going to be a high scoring game. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, Pete. Absolutely.
I mean, that's like Hollywood Brown's going to be arguably bad, like almost a wide receiver 1.
Don't tell me that. I have to play against Hollywood Brown in like 2 games.
I mean, the Chiefs secondary got worse, and
it was already really bad. It was already really bad.
And Hollywood Brown's sitting there, and he's the only real healthy pass catcher, basically.
I know. It's frustrating.
But
okay.
Like even with I'd put him around Javonte.
Yeah, but they've got Javonte opening at 13.
Right.
We just went through that whole thing, so I'm not. I was just removing him from consideration. So what about? How about this? Would you rather play Etienne or Leonard Fournette?
Fournette.
Yeah, that's the area that we're starting to get into, where it's like, would you rather play him or Saquon?
Become workhorses, yeah.
Yeah, would you rather him play him over Saquon? Because I couldn't do that either.
But we've established my dislike of James not dislike, but disbelief in James Robinson's season, or how he's going to really how effective he's going to really be.
I understand that. I do.
So,
it's just it also hurts you slightly that he is going to play. So even though it would have helped you more, him just not being able to get up for the game and even being able to get out there.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, those are 2 guys I'm all for.
Okay. And there was one last thing here. James, I didn't mean to misrepresent you in any way. So this was in relation to Melvin Gordon. Yes, that should be the correct consensus, I think, for everyone, is that unfortunately industry wide, that isn't what we're doing. That isn't what I'm seeing in the ECR. We've beaten that to death all preseason, but I appreciate you clarifying, especially if you're still with us. Keep the questions coming. Because now at this point, I think we're going to start moving into wide receiver here. So wide receiver is an interesting one. To me, there were 2 that stuck out. One, Mike Williams. So Mike Williams opens the week at wide receiver 18 in the ECR. And I understand that they're playing the Raiders and that the Raiders secondary was bad. And that they're probably going to have to throw to try and keep the game, competitive, because the Raiders will put up a fight. They are going to do something in this game. But my concern with putting Mike Williams all the way up at 18 means you're telling me that you're going to start Mike Williams as a set it and forget it wide receiver 2? Not in my life, because Mike Williams, sure, he can have these huge bomb games. We know that, but he also has a huge bust potential. Every year we go through this. So for me, I don't view him as a consistent enough option to really be willing to put him inside wide receiver 2 territory. If you want Mike Williams to be your flex, I got no problem with that. That's what flexes are for. but you're going to need to get something out of your wide receiver too, more than likely. So some of the other names that he's going in and around, I like way more. So for example, with Mike Williams coming in at 18, that would mean that the ECR likes Mike Williams over the following names: Brandon Cooks, Terry McLaurin, Rashard Bateman, Darnell Mooney. And there are other names on there too, but I'm just listing I'd probably rather play just about any of those as my wide receiver too before we got to Mike Williams.
I have all those ranked ahead of him.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not. So you and I, we formally agreed on something. So that's good.
Well, I have never been a Mike Williams fan.
Me either.
When it comes to his just his type of play and his fantasy output, it's a headache. I don't want to have a headache.
No, I don't want to be thinking about this as much as I already have. Just talking about it and having to write all this up, I was thinking about it too much. It's like, why are we doing this? So no, I understand that it's a good matchup and that folks are excited and that have always historically been on a little bit of an island when it comes to Mike Williams. It sounds like you're on the island with me, and Steve, coincidentally. But
one of our few guys that we just all are like,
yeah, just no, I don't want that. But yeah, it's a plus matchup, but this whole thing scares me. If you want to play him as a flex, great, but just understand that you're playing with fire. Mike Williams is the definition of playing with fire. So I'm not super excited about how this is getting broken down. But I will say, before I get accused of being all doom and gloom, I do have one that I think that people are really undervaluing, and that's Chris Godwin. So I'm just going to start by posing the question: is Chris Godwin too low? And for me, yeah, because he opened the week at wide receiver 43 in the ECR. And I understand that's because he's coming off the injury. There's some questions about whether or not he's going to play. But if you follow the reports, he got out of the brace finally. So he's going to be playing with no brace. That happened late last week. And then just today, he logged a full practice. And today, for the context, is Wednesday the 7th. So what am I missing? Because for me, if he's practicing with no limitations and he's going to be ready for the Sunday night game, 43 is criminally too low. I've already started moving him up into flex range. And if I get to the end of the week and he's logged like 3 consecutive full practices, I'm going to put him in as a wide receiver too. That Dallas secondary does not scare me at all. And Tampa Bay will have to throw, because for all the things you said about Tampa Bay's defense being pretty good, Dallas should find some way to score some points. So yeah. they should have to keep the game going. It should be a relatively high scoring game. So for me, I think Chris Godwin is criminally too low for this week. And if we get to the end of the week and they've said nothing but he's practiced in full all week and he's out of the brace, he's going to be in the mid 20s for me. He'll probably be like right around 24.
I mean, I've heard reports where they've said that he's at 8 months now post-surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, the 9-month is what you're looking at for a full recovery to head back to the field. So they're saying that they might, or there are reports. I don't have the exact report. I forget. It was just on Twitter, though, that seemed to be reputable people that they were going to ease him in the first few weeks because, one, they have depth at the position, and 2, the 9-month is what they're trying to hit before they fully unleash him.
Okay.
I don't know. We could easily sit there and why would they play him during the preseason? Obviously, there's no reason.
Right.
So why would you practice during the preseason? Again, no reason to. So this week, getting the knee brace off, good signs, practicing full, and the Dallas secondary, like he'd go against Anthony Brown?
Something like that, and he'd destroy Anthony. He should destroy Anthony Brown even on
destroy Trayvon Diggs too. So
yeah,
they can go ahead and put the number 1 supposed cornerback on him.
Let's talk about it.
It's a risky one.
Let's talk about it in these terms. At 43, here are the folks that are around 43. Drake London in his first ever start.
Coming off an injury himself.
Coming off his own injury. Kadarius Toney, who I very much do not like and am not convinced
also,
on.
I think's hurt.
Yeah, that too. Tyler Lockett, no.
Yeah. Definitely.
Robert Woods, I I love Robert Woods. I'm
I'd
a
take the upside with Godwin at that point.
huge Bobby Tree supporter, but like no, like that's not even in the same planet. Brandon Ayuk is where to me it gets like okay, that's a conversation.
And
Like
that's just are they? That's like we talked about before with Lancet, how much they're going to pass, how much they're going to have to pass.
right.
And so is Ayuk really going to the number 3 target on this San Francisco passing attack? Is that
And we'll
really
see if Kittle doesn't play, obviously that changes.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I can keep going. Devonta Smith. No.
take the upside with Godwin there,
Yep.
too.
Alan Lazard, doubt even plays.
He's looking like he actually won't.
Yeah, exactly. Hunter Renfrow, no.
God, no.
Yeah, Christian Kirk, no.
Get him out of your lineup for basically anybody.
Right. Get Hunter Renfrow out of your team if you can. See if you can trade that.
Yeah, trade that name.
Yeah,
he's the slot white guy in a Josh McDaniels offense.
Yeah, which cool. I get it, but no, like not when Devontae Adams is there. Like and Darren Waller is magically healthy after getting that extension that we joked about in the preseason wrap up show. Hey, my leg, I'm fine.
Magical pen.
Feel great. Yeah, let's go. Start the season. But yeah, I'm already up to. By the way, I'm up to 34 with Christian Kirk at this point. We've already moved up 9 spots.
Yeah, we're already like almost 10 spots up, and
yeah, I can keep going.
0 really thought.
No, yeah, and I can keep going. Christian Kirk. Yeah, I'm playing Chris Godwin over Christian Kirk. Again, I'll entertain that conversation if you want. That's fine. But for me, I'm.
It took us 10 spots to even like think about it.
Right, and then the next one that I think you'd also think about is Amari Cooper. Think about it. Yeah, but I'd probably rather play Godwin.
Yeah, I'd probably because I mean, we'll talk about the tight end part. I've already said my love for Kareem Hunt in this offense. I don't think we're gonna have so many mouths to feed.
Yeah. Okay.
Amari Cooper's good, but also J.C. Horn's returning for the Panthers. He played really well in his rookie year for the time he was healthy. And I don't think Cooper played that well last year overall.
No, I rostered him in fantasy. No, he did not.
He had that boom week in week 1 where he had like 40 PPR points.
Fell off a cliff.
He didn't even hit like 17 points the rest of the season. Almost.
No, he had like one other usable fantasy game the rest of the year, and the rest of it was just junk.
So I'm not offense that threw the ball more than almost anyone in the league.
So you want to know where I'd actually get to? Adam Thielen at 32. I'd probably
play well against the Packers.
I'd probably play Thielen, and they're going to have to throw because they're probably going to be losing. So they're going to, and also the Packers secondary is not good. So there's that too. So
they've gotten a lot better the past couple of years.
I understand they've gotten better. I still don't view them as like good. Not good enough to really impact Adam Thielen enough. And it's more opportunity driven, frankly. It's more the first thing I was saying. They're going to have to throw. So we get all the way up to like 32 before I start having real questions and real conversations. So that's the whole reason for the Godwin discussion. I don't see how I'm going to be sitting behind some of that stuff.
Yeah, if he plays, he actually plays the game, plays relatively most of the snaps, even at like a 70%, 60% snap count. You think a 60% snap count is really going to not end up in basically at least 12 fantasy points to say the least?
I'd say that's your floor, right?
Yeah,
that's like your utter
60%
floor.
of the snaps.
Yeah. And that's
when he's normally around 90, 95.
Yeah, so he plays the whole game, and it just it struck me as odd when I was compiling all of this, so I figured we would talk about it. So Mike, those are my two at wide receiver. Who do you have at wide receiver that we should go through here?
I'm gonna look at Elijah Moore and Isaiah McKenzie.
Okay, let's start with Elijah Moore. Yeah.
So Elijah Moore's sitting there. I believe his one start with Joe Flacco last year ended in like 100+ yards and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. He opens the ECR at wide receiver 31 for context.
So you're saying around like Thielen,
right next to Adam Thielen. He's literally right next to Adam Thielen. Yeah.
Yeah, like I would think even looking at this, Juju's kind of low too.
Juju's at 28. Yeah, as it opens. Yeah.
Like I'd put Juju over Mike Williams. I'd put Juju over Jalen Waddle.
Jalen Waddle is a
way too high.
And concerning with the injury stuff. at this point now.
Yeah, he hasn't really practiced, and he's going against New England, which I know they lost J.C. Jackson, but this is still a Bill Belichick defense that is pretty good at stopping just offenses in general, but especially pass catchers. So it's a pretty scary matchup for having Tyreek Hill in the top 10 and having Jalen Waddle in the top 20. It's like,
Yep.
That's not how that works. That's not how math goes.
No.
But
Don't worry about that. That's fine.
With Elijah Moore, I mean, we said in the Jets 32-32 that if it was anybody but Zach Wilson throwing the ball, wheels up for Elijah Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I know you're an Elijah Moore fan.
Garrett Wilson even said himself, Joe Flacco throws a lot more catchable ball. Yeah, congrats. Now you actually get to play with him for 4 weeks. As long as he doesn't do any more of that scrambling outside the pocket that he did, that looked like he was big. He was worse than Big Ben when he scrambled outside the pocket. But he against the Giants in the preseason, he scrambled to his right for a while, trying to wait for somebody to get open or something, and just threw it right to a linebacker. It was just an awful play. If you ever see it, it'll be ingrained in your mind. I can assure you that. So as long as he doesn't do anything like that,
I'm just picturing Joe Flacco try to run. It's not going to go well.
Yeah, the only thing is, am I nervous because it's the Baltimore Ravens defense that's actually healthy again? Sure. There's going to be some concerns there. It's Marlon Humphrey, who's a phenomenal cornerback. I don't care about Marcus Peters. He's whatever. And also I could very much see the Ravens blitzing enough that Flacco has no time whatsoever.
I could see that. That one I could see. With the O-line on the Jets being what it is, I could see that. And Joe Flacco, as we already mentioned, not being able to run away. So let's put a fine point on it. Elijah Moore or Gabe Davis?
It's tough. I mean, I'm guessing that Davis is going to score because the cornerback 2 on the Rams isn't exactly the scariest in the world because they just lost Darius Williams. Yeah, it's hard to hard to bench a Buffalo Bill pass catcher.
Yeah. Well, let's do a different one then. We'll score that one for Gabe Davis. What about Jerry Judy?
I think I'd do Elijah Moore.
All right. What about Juju himself? We already mentioned Juju. What about Juju?
Yeah, it's too high scoring. That's gonna probably go Juju.
Okay. And then what about Michael Thomas?
That's scary. See, there's so many questions there because of one, you're coming back from an injury. He doesn't have any chemistry at all with Jameis Winston. And like I said, I think the secondary at least is very solid for the Falcons. I guess I'd go the upside and do more.
Okay.
I think he has way more upside.
Okay, then I'll do one more. We'll go on the other side of the Thursday night game. Elijah Moore or Allen Robinson?
A-Rob.
Yeah, I'd go A-Rob too on that one. Okay. That gives you a sense, though, of where it is. You are a little bit higher than consensus. Your consensus is 31. I'd say you're probably more like 27, 28. So it's going to be something like that. And then now let's talk about your friend. Let's talk about. I'm just going to leave.
My BFF.
I'm just going to leave while you talk about Isaiah McKenzie. So good show.
I don't know how he became my BFF, but like I just fell in love with this guy. Just sitting there being like, oh, I mean, we're talking about the Buffalo Bills 32-32. It might not be Jamison Crowder. Maybe it's Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah, and then we told you were wrong, and then
every report
Crowder
that came out
exploded into a horrible fireball, and Isaiah McKenzie apparently is going to be the starting slot receiver against all odds. I don't know what they're doing, but okay.
Muscle hamster or whatever Josh Allen called him. So you're going to sit there and have him against a 32-year-old Troy Hill in the slot. Because I don't think they're going to like Jalen Ramsey has moved to the slot throughout the past couple years even more than he did previously, just because I don't even know why. I mean, he played really well there. It's basically just taking out the best player on the opposing offense, and Ramsey can do it inside or outside. But I don't think that they're going to take Ramsey off of Diggs or Davis and put him on little Mckenzie.
No, I can't imagine that that's going to be what they're going to do. No, I can't
So if
imagine
they're
that's going
not,
to happen.
if they're not going to do that, and he's the one that gets to just run free against one-on-one coverage on one of the heaviest passing attacks in the NFL, that's going to be in a high-scoring game, as we've mentioned multiple times here. I could easily see him repeat that 11 for 12 for 100-plus yards and a touchdown that he had in his one start last year.
I get it, and that is the concern. It's as we've
But
talked about.
I mean, what's his consensus?
57.
Good Lord.
So you're talking about Nico Collins, Jahan Doxson, Devontae Parker, Julio Jones. That's probably too low. George Pickens, Jarvis Landry, Russell Gage, Rondale Moore, MVS. Stop me when I get to one you want to talk about. Tyler Boyd, Chase Claypool, Jacoby Myers. Yeah. Chris Olave. Oh, Chris Godwin. We'll stop there.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we've moved two players like up 15 spots or so.
Yeah. So then I could see how you could get to there. I definitely have him moved up in my rankings a little bit as well, just because they've got him down there lumped in with the dregs. And to me, I don't like the player nearly as much as you do, but I will say this. That's that being ranked that way is a misrepresentation of what that job historically is.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills slot job has value. Yeah.
Like he's a solid player. He's fine.
Okay.
But the Bills slot receiver.
That's the part that I'll give you, because the Bills slot player historically is a borderline top 35 type of thing.
Yeah.
Even when it was Cole Beasley.
At 32, 33 years old.
Yeah, old Cole Beasley was holding down a
borderline
back end. He was a back end flex. He was a back end flex. And it was pretty much every week he was a back end flex. So as much as I don't like Isaiah McKenzie, and I'm pretty upfront about that, that he's got that job, and that job has value.
And he's healthy.
He's healthy.
He's practicing fully. There was an undisclosed injury earlier earlier this week or end of last week, but he's been back this week.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you on that. He'd have to go up into like late 30s at a minimum. He should probably be around like 36. He should be right around where Alan Lazard is.
I was going to say, like, you're sitting there with Alan Lazard, and I remember Hunter Renfrow was around
35. He's right in front of. So is Christian Kirk. So is Amari Cooper. So it's like he's in that. He should be in more of that territory. Yeah, I wouldn't play him over Thielen.
I'd put him over Renfrow easily.
I'd put him over Renfrow, but I wouldn't put him over Thielen, and I'm
okay with that. Yeah.
I'd think about Christian Kirk.
I think I'd play Christian Kirk.
I'd probably play Christian Kirk, to be honest.
That's literally 20 spots.
No, yeah, but we went up. Yeah. It's actually a little more than that. It's a little more than 20 slots. That's what I'm saying. I'm with you on that idea. I wasn't sure how high up
the biggest jump I could find in my rankings.
No, it makes sense. It definitely makes sense, because when I was going through this myself, I was like, I don't like Isaiah McKenzie, but I'm looking at that like, guys, no, like he's playing slot in Buffalo, and it's not an ideal game, but he's probably gonna do some stuff. Like that game's probably gonna be relatively high scoring. So I do think the hate has gone too far on Isaiah McKenzie. It's time to kind of reevaluate some of that. So as it relates to wide receiver, I think we're good. So let's talk about tight end, because I'll be honest with you, I don't have anything to go through for tight end. I thought the consensus was pretty fair. As we know, tight end is kind of a wasteland. There are a couple interesting streamer options if you're one of those folks after my own heart that is just committed to streaming tight end because you don't care and you load it up at other positions. I love it. So there's a couple things like that. But Mike, let's go to you first. What do you have for tight end to cover? Are we going to talk about David Njoku?
We're going to definitely talk about David Njoku.
I feel like we're going to talk about David Njoku.
The biggest winner of the Brissett scenario is David Njoku. Even this preseason, the short time that he's played with Brissett, he's had a 30% target share. And that's not
really
hard to believe.
That's really high. It's not hard to believe, and it's really high.
Yeah. They haven't all been pretty passes, but
well, they're not going to be. It's Jacoby Brissett. We know this. I don't mean to be crappy.
He's going to get the passes.
Yes, they will be coming his direction. They're not all going to be tight spirals that go where they're supposed to go, but they'll be
That's what
coming
you
over
do
there
for like
some
a
way.
6 foot. That's why you have a 6'4" basically basketball player at tight end, so he can just go ahead and get it wherever it is. It's fine.
Yeah.
He's
So
athletic enough.
let's do it this way. So David Njoku, obviously they're playing Carolina, as we've covered a couple times. Carolina historically has never been able to stop the tight end. So I don't see why this year would be different, because every year they can never seem to get a linebacker that's actually capable of stopping the tight end. It's been a chronic problem with the Carolina defense for like 4 years in a row. And I really don't think they're going to have, I don't think they've solved it at all. So that works in Njoku's favor. The other thing that I would say about it is he's opening at 15. So I'll do what I've been doing and give you some of the guys going around there. Njoku or Alberto?
Njoku.
Njoku or Hunter Henry?
Definitely Njoku.
Yeah. Njoku or Irv Smith?
Njoku.
Njoku or Cole Kmet?
Njoku.
Njoku or Dawson Knox?
Njoku.
Njoku or Pat Freiermuth?
I have him just above Freiermuth.
Okay, so you've got him in the top 10 then.
He's
because
at
we've
8.
started moving into the top 10 now.
He's at 8 for me.
Okay.
Freiermuth is at 9, who is the other person I was going to talk about. So, boom.
We'll talk about Freiermuth together because I've got some interesting. I think Freiermuth could actually have a really good game. He might have a really good season, but I just mean this week. I think Freiermuth could have a really nice game. Like it's setting up. It sets up in his favor. But just to close the thing on Njoku, yeah, you're significantly higher. You're higher than even me. So is it just the quarterback change and then the matchup, or is there something else that we haven't covered that makes you kind of want to gravitate to him?
I think generally this season he's going to be a top 10 tight end for me.
Okay.
I think that's going to be a regular thing for me. Is he's going to be a top 10 tight end.
Who falls out then? Is it like Zach Ertz? Is that kind of what you did?
Oh, Zach Ertz. I have. Well, at least this. I mean, with this I don't trust this hamstring or whatever his injury is. I don't trust it at all. Because I don't think he's practicing.
No, not really. He might be doing some limited work, but
he's day to day, as Clint Kingsbury is saying. But also, I'm pretty sure last year somebody had pointed out that Kingsbury said the exact same thing about Hopkins. And Hopkins missed 2 more weeks. And
I remember. I remember. As someone who rostered DeAndre Hopkins last year, he was day to day for a month.
Might happen again with Ertz. Who knows? Because they got
it
pride, like whatever. They could easily just throw in the talented rookie or just not pay attention to the tight end position.
Yeah, and just use Rondale.
That's not a crazy thing to do.
Yeah, just use Rondale more in the slot more. That's fine. I could see that. Who's healthy. So, okay.
Yeah, Knox, I think, is close.
Knox is at 11. I always downgrade Knox. It's great for him that he signed that extension, but I can't count on
Njoku over Knox, basically on the
I can't count on Knox ever because there's too many weapons in Buffalo. So yeah, right. Dawson Knox will have some good games, but so will everyone.
That game he gets a touchdown.
Yeah, so will everyone on that team who's actually there. They will all have some good games. The only one I really feel strongly enough about consistently is Stephon Diggs. That's one of the downfalls of the Bills being that good and having that many weapons. They can spread it around. So if you can take away part,
curse.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it does make it challenging for fantasy. But that's why I get really hard to get excited about Dawson Knox myself. What about Hawkinson?
They are close.
Yeah. I kind of figured that would be about the Mendoza line, where it's like, well, okay.
I mean, it's going to depend on how reliant Goff is on St. Brown. I want to see early in the season, how involved is St. Brown? It's sounding like he's going to actually be pretty involved.
I think that's the plan.
He's playing well still, but also Goff never really played with him last year.
Yeah.
As a focal point. So it's not like we're doing, he played well with this team last year to end the season just because Hawkinson's coming back and Swift's coming back. Well, no, but also the quarterback is a completely different quarterback.
Right.
So we're having a lot of factors that are going into that. I believe St. Brown's going to be used, and a lot. But also that means you got to take targets away from other players.
Yeah, my concern with Hawkinson is the one that he might be the one that gets the most impacted by that because it's just
he is the least talented.
Exactly, and it's just tight end. It's like,
yeah,
Amon-Ra, St. Brown primarily will play out of the slot, So it's kind of like you can't
Swifts
have
are
it
going to
both
be
ways.
dump offs.
And Swift is always the dump off king, is for historically at least, since he's been there. He's your dump off king. And then you have
So
another
red
receiver
zone.
usually right, exactly. And it's like, I don't know how this works.
So that's
Okay.
why if the season starts out like a game or two in, and St. Brown's leading the team in targets, Hawkinson's even close to Swift, like they're neck and neck with each other,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be hard for me to like rank Hawkinson very high.
I could see that. Let's talk about Pat Fryerman then. So we covered David Njoku. You've got David Njoku inside the top 10. I'm not going to call you crazy for it because I think he's a little too low in the ECR at 15 to begin with. I for sure would be playing David Njoku over Albert O and Hunter Henry and Dawson Knox. 100% I'm doing that. We could have a conversation about Cole Kmet.
Right.
But beyond that, I'm with you. So what about Fryermuth? Because I don't want to steal your thunder, but for my money, I already kind of mentioned it. I think this week Fryermuth could have a huge game against that Cincinnati defense. It's entirely possible that happens.
They are awful, or they were last year, awful against the tight end. Like one of the worst in the NFL. Led up the most, or top 5 in allowing receptions to the tight end, top 5 in yardage. And so you're going to sit there, and in both of the matchups that Fryermuth played, he had at least 3 catches and a touchdown. And so if you're
pretty good for
there,
tight end. I know that doesn't sound sexy to people
it's
at
nothing,
home,
yeah,
but
it's nothing
it's
crazy.
pretty good
like,
for a tight end. Like
if you're going to sit there and you're going into your fantasy matchup and you can guarantee your tight end has at least more than 3 catches,
it's at least a 9 before you
and then
factor in yards.
and then a touchdown, and then whatever the yardage happens to be. I think it only totaled out to be about 70 total yards between the two games, but whatever.
That's tight end, man.
Yeah, that's
4 for 35 and a score is a victory week for tight end for most tight ends. You got it. You got what you wanted.
So if he did that in both matchups last year, because the Bengals are really bad at linebacker, they have some young guys that could become more talented or more prominent players, but they aren't yet. And so Fryermuth in the middle of the field, and he's top 3, I believe, in tight ends, according to Pro Football Reference, that tight end amount of targets in the red zone, percentage of the team's targets. He was top 3 among tight ends, behind Mark Andrews, and I think he was tied with Cole Kmet.
Yeah, and we all saw what that Bears team devolved into. So
yeah. Oddly enough, Kmet didn't even get a single touchdown, but you know.
Yeah, well,
Fryermuth got 7.
Right. And I know some folks are scared because it's not Roethlisberger throwing the ball anymore. But Mike, I want to tee you up for it because you brought this up. I don't even remember if it was on stream or if we were just having a private conversation, to be honest. But were talking to Steve and I about the idea that, like, it shouldn't matter who the quarterback is in reality because the way that this should work for the lion's share of the season is they're just going to use Chase Claypool to take the top off the defense and try and leave the middle of the field wide open for Fryermuth and Deontay, and that's the game script you're expecting to watch. And you're a Steelers fan, so you watch all these games. You get more into it than either Steve or I, as it relates to purely the Steelers. So does that kind of play into what you're talking about here with Fryermuth as well? Like, is that still the mindset in the background?
Well, the thing with the Bengals, their safeties are a good tandem. Bates is a wonderful free safety that's good at covering deep downfield. And Chidobe Awuzie, their number 1 cornerback, had a great year last year. He should return and have another solid year. And then Mike Hilton in the slot is one of the better slot receiver or cornerbacks in the league. So you're looking at all those type positions. Well, if Chase Claypool is the guy who has been playing in the slot and is probably like, I want to say 6 inches taller than Mike Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's just going to go down the middle, they're going to probably want to bracket him because of the fact that he's 6 inches taller than Mike Hilton.
Right. Give him some help.
Then, yeah.
Give him a chance.
Whether it be Bates or not, either way. So you're going to sit there and do that. And then if Deontay is with Chidobe Awuzie, that's going to be a good matchup. But Deontay did pretty well last year in general. So you're looking at Pratt Fryermuth having a good matchup with one of the linebackers. Or Von Bell, their strong safety. I mean,
and he's a lot bigger than Von Bell.
So this offensive line is going to be terrible. Trubisky's not going to have much time to throw the ball. That means that there are probably going to be a few that are going to be a quick pass, just like, oh, well, here you go.
And now I'll get into my Bears shtick from years gone by. Mitch Trubisky has zero problem throwing a million dump-offs to the tight end.
And then
he made Jimmy Graham matter, for God's sake, and Jimmy Graham was 100 by the time that was actually happening.
I know Big Ben's ADOT was second lowest in the league last year.
I was just going to say bad.
Yeah.
Bad is all people need to know.
But Trubisky's is middle of the pack his entire career.
Yeah, he's not Mr. Dump-Off, but he does throw. He's not afraid to throw them dump-offs, though. He will do it.
He only had 1 year where he was like 9.4 yards downfield or something, but every other year has been 8.2, 8.3, which is at best league average, if not like towards 20.
It's being generous to be league average. I think league average is a little higher than that at this point.
So if you're sitting there and you're looking, so okay, as we've said this entire offseason, the guys that benefit the most from both Pickett or Trubisky being the guys, it's going to be Deontay because he's the best route runner and he's going to get open quick. It's going to be Freiermuth, and it's going to possibly be Najee just because they're going to use him as a workhorse.
Yeah, and they're going to have to throw a bunch of dump-offs to him possibly as well. So that makes a lot of sense. So we've run a little bit over, Mike. So here, let's do this. I don't have any other tight ends I want to add here. I think those are the most attractive ones, to be perfectly honest. And because there's only 12 tight ends, it's like how
yeah. There's no reason to go like over him.
No, not really. No, and you're not going to start either of those guys over any of the established your Mark Andrewses or your Travis Kelce's or your Kyle Pitts. I will say if George Kittle does sit, go see if you could pick up David Njoku. The first thing I would do. Pat Freiermuth is probably rostered.
Oh, so, yeah, I would probably guarantee that he's rostered.
Yeah, but Njoku might not be. Yeah, Pat Freiermuth, in all likelihood, is rostered. I guess it's worth checking. But Njoku might not be because there's been people that are scared because they've been burned before.
He's already there at 15 for the week one. Like, okay, yeah, he's probably not rostered.
He's probably not rostered.
Not many people have 2 tight ends on their team.
No, some do. It depends on what kind of league you play in, but he's probably rostered. And then the other one, I guess I would take a dark horse shot at Irv Smith if I absolutely had to, but I'd really prefer that Njoku was available.
Yeah, if Irv Smith or Alberto, they're 10 times more risky.
Yeah, But if you needed a replacement, if you absolutely needed a replacement, I could see it. It would be fine.
Yeah,
that's
an athlete.
That's the weird thing about tight end is that it matters so little. So it matters so little that let's talk about something that matters almost equally as much: streaming defenses. And I know it's weird in week 1 to talk about streaming defenses, but I know people that do this. I myself have done this. Sometimes you just stream defense the whole season because who cares? Like just play the matchup the whole. I do this all the time actually. Like I very rarely invest in a defense. I'm more likely to take a back end bench player that might develop into somebody and just literally pick up and drop a defense every week. So for me, the low percentage ones for me this week that I like, we teased it from the top a little bit in the quarterback segment. I like the Browns against Carolina. I'm not into the Baker Mayfield revenge game narrative. I'm a little afraid of Christian McCaffrey, but that's it. I'm not afraid of DJ Moore. I'm not afraid of, God knows I'm not afraid of Robbie Anderson. I'm not afraid of anything else they have. If they can just stop CMC from killing them, I think the Browns could put up a very nice day for you. So that is a really bad matchup in a lot of ways, as we already kind of covered for Carolina. The Browns defense should give them fits, and I like the Browns defense to pick up some sacks. I think they can turn the ball over at least once or twice. I will be surprised if Myles Garrett doesn't get home clean at least once. He should get home really hard at least once, if not twice. So, and then they've got other weapons too besides Myles Garrett. So for me, I got the Browns just outside the top 5 in defense this week. They're widely available, and that's one that I like. The other one I like is the Titans. A little bit more risk with the Titans because that defense isn't really that good. So there's some risk with that. But what we could all agree on is that the Giants are probably going to be bad. So even with them being ostensibly healthy and it's week 1 and everything like that, So there's a little more risk in this. I'd rather the Browns if they were available. But if I had to belly up to the bar with something that I think is close, I could get behind the Titans. Daniel Jones will turn the ball over at least once or twice. It's what they do. And it's I'm not. I don't think you're going to hang your hat on the sacks for that game, but I think there will be enough turnovers to make it matter. And then my final one is the Bengals. Cover your ears, Mike. Just Mitch Trubisky throws a lot of picks. I'm a little concerned about it. So
Yeah.
I take a look at the Bengals. I think it's pretty hard for you to get up. I don't even think the Bengals is that great of a defense. Full stop. They're okay. They're pretty good, but they're not like amazing or anything. And it's more about their opponent being the Steelers in week 1. And I think there'll be some turnovers. As a veteran of watching Mitch Trubisky play football, there will probably be some turnovers. And there'll be at least one time where he holds the ball too long and gets absolutely leveled. That also happens. At least once a game, he'll hold that ball too long and just get his bell rung as hard as he can because he didn't get rid of the ball in time. So those are my 3 that if you're looking at a streamer for this week, I like any of those 3. So Mike, do you have any like streaming defenses or anything that you might want to kind of add onto that? I know some people like the Dolphins, for example. I don't.
I mean, they don't. The problem with the Dolphins is I don't trust Mac Jones to really turn the ball over too much.
Yeah, that's my problem.
And the secondary is pretty injury riddled for the Dolphins.
I also don't know if they're going to be able to generate enough sacks. They might.
It's possible.
Tua does hold the ball too long and sometimes gets killed. I've seen people trying to talk up the Dolphins against New England, and I'm like, I don't know
what's
about that.
Philly?
Philly's right at 10, but Philly's also pretty widely available. Nobody's super interested in Philly.
I would like Philly.
Philly against Detroit, I could see it.
Because they have added a lot to that defense. That was already a good defense, not amazing, but it was a good defense last year. So you're sitting there and also looking at them adding James Bradbury at cornerback, adding Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, adding Jordan Davis up the middle. Like, I know that the Lions have a great offensive line, but it's also Goff behind them.
Yeah, right.
So we've said, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown, great wide receiver. So he should. Darius Slay, though, is a lockdown cornerback last year. He was like all pro level.
He's still elite. Darius Slay is still very much an elite corner. So
I think that defensive front could get some sacks, and that secondary has enough playmakers that's one of those where you're not in love with the matchup, but you're in love with the defense, and the matchup doesn't scare you.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what the Cleveland one is as well. I trust the talent on defense for Cleveland.
Yeah.
I don't love the fact that they're playing Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore, but I trust that defense to just be good enough to not care.
Right, exactly. And I trust them to be good enough to try and minimize those 2 players and say, okay, now beat me with what else you have. Mm-hmm. And Carolina being completely unable to do that. Just not possible for them. If they can take away CMC and DJ Moore, there's nothing left that even remotely scares me. So it's just a question of can they contain those 2 things? I think they can. So I like the Eagles one. I hadn't really looked too deep into that. The Eagles one is interesting because you're right. They have added a number of players. I think they realized that their defense was kind of holding them back, and that if they could, so they went out and tried to make adjustments in the offseason to try and get a little bit better on that side of the ball. And I think they definitely have. So I could see that one. The only other one that I was going to say is I'm seeing a lot of love for the Chargers.
Nope.
And I don't like that either. I was also on the camp of
the Chargers are a good defense when healthy. The Chargers are going to be a good defense. The problem is they're playing 3 other strong offenses for like half their season.
Yeah, and just this week they're playing the Raiders. You're going to have Devontae Adams out there. Just don't like it.
Why? I mean, the only thing you're banking on is that Bosa and Mack just
the sacks
demolish the Raiders' offensive line.
But if they can't do that, it's going to get ugly quickly.
Carr probably knows that, and he's probably just going to get the ball out quick anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't think the upside's there.
I'll do one more because you were talking about the Patriots. So where do you think the Patriots came in at?
Don't tell me they're a top 12.
No, they're not in the top 12.
Okay.
They're 13.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was curious if that sounds about right, or if you were thinking maybe you want to go a little bit higher because it is a Bill Belichick defense against the new look Dolphins. Because for me, no, I think 13's about right.
They're around that. Like it's you either in that range, you're either looking at a defense that's a good defense like the Bills or the Packers that have a bad matchup that you don't want to put them out there against, or it's just bad defenses like, I mean, obviously the Dolphins are just injury riddled. Like I said, I don't trust their secondary to be able to hold up. Behind that's like the Panthers and Chiefs. A bad defense and then a bad defense. Like, I mean, that's not. I don't think anyone behind, like, Steelers, obviously a good match or a good team in defense, but the Bengals have an improved offensive line, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins played
pretty good
amazing against
pretty good at football generally. Also, like
and Joe Mixon ran through the defense last year, so that's just a matchup I'm not going to touch.
Yeah, honestly,
I don't think any defense is good enough to keep, like, at all.
The Bengals completely in check? No, I don't either. I don't think there's anybody in the league that can do it.
I don't think there's a defense I would comfortably keep on my roster as a fantasy manager throughout the whole season, no matter what.
No. Even
I'm not picking up another defense. I'm not having two defenses on my team at any point in any season. I don't think I would. I don't think I've done that before. I don't think I would ever do that.
Depends. I could see it. This is where I would need to have all the schedules for all the teams immediately in front of me, because there is a scenario where I will do that, which is when you have a weird scenario where it's like they have 3+ matchups in their next 4, but one that's really bad, and then like I'm not cutting them for that. I'm going to hold on to them, and then so I'd argue that yes,
I'd either
in
play them
most
that week.
scenarios I will only have one, but there are random limited availability things where I will hold them and cut the worst player off my bench because I could probably almost more easily pick that player back up than I could the in-demand streaming defense that people sometimes want to go fight over on the waiver wire. So I can't say never.
I'd play them in I'd either play that really good defense in a bad matchup and just accept it,
deal with it. Yeah.
Or the only time I've ever really done it had been prepping for playoffs.
Yeah. Like in the playoffs sometimes.
If I'm in the playoffs and I'm getting ready for those matchups, like trying to look ahead to the semifinals.
Yeah, you're going 4 weeks out. Yeah, you're going 3-4 weeks out. Yeah,
that's the only time I'm okay with it.
Yeah, because that's the difference, and this was not meant to be a theory show, but that's something we will talk about as we get longer in. Well, that's the thing. Roster construction changes. It needs to. When you start getting into the playoffs, you need to start making adjustments to your roster to make your playoff roster. Your playoff roster should look different than your in-season roster. I see people fail at this sometimes where it's like, no, as we get into the playoffs, that's where you need your handcuff, or you should at least try to get it. And it's also where, like what you're talking about, it becomes more acceptable to look at holding multiple defenses. And some of these like upside players that we always talk about that you want to hold on to, it gets to a certain point where they don't matter anymore. Unless you're playing Dynasty or some sort of
team got you there for a reason.
Yeah, it's like, do you really need this upside player that might break out? It's like, that becomes more expendable. It's also where a lot of times I'll only have one quarterback. And it's where if you know you're going to the playoffs, that's where it's like, no, I might need some sort of other quarterback because what if my guy gets hurt? It's going to be a lot harder to go out and just pick somebody up off the waiver wire and like truly stream it. You can get away with that. I've done it myself, but it's not always advisable.
And this is just week 1.
I know. But Mike, I think we're good. I think we covered the whole thing. I don't want to talk about kicker. Do you want to talk about kicker? I don't want to talk about kicker.
No. Do you see a kicker with a good last name that you like his name? Cool. Go ahead, play him if you want.
Yeah. Preferably somebody who kicks inside.
Domes, high scoring offense. This is like, it's like how Pokemon was a game made for children because it's like rock, paper, scissors. simple concept. Just go with
A game
go with
made for
that.
children and enjoyed by adults.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Just like fantasy football.
Kickers is an easy concept.
Yeah, it really is. And if you're looking for one, sure, pick up Rodrigo Blankenship against Houston. Love it. Love everything about it. Just do that. Top 5 kicker this week. Should be.
Boom.
There you go. Done and done. Widely available. So, Mike, do you have any other final pieces of advice to everybody besides reiterating start your studs? Don't get too cute. Oh, and for the love of God, move Isaiah McKenzie up.
Yeah, that should go without saying, but
Clearly it doesn't because
obviously the big things. If you're playing any Thursday night players, put them in whatever slot they are, running back or whatever. Put them in there. Don't have a Thursday night player in your flex, and make sure you're up bright and early on Sunday because you got to keep up with those injury reports. We have a lot of players like Alan Lazard, and obviously Cam Akers for tomorrow is seeming good. But like Chris Godwin, as we had said, he seems to be trending in the right direction. But like, never know.
No, you got George Kittle, who was added to the injury report today, missed practice.
Yeah, that's never a good sign to be added.
No, don't like
in
that.
The middle of the week.
Don't like that. They said he hurt himself on Monday. Added him today, and it's like don't like any of that. Nope.
And if you have questions when it comes to like if one of your guys suddenly out Sunday morning, just come to the Discord. We'll help you out.
I was going to say, you beat me to it. All right. So once again, that is patreon.com/importantnonsense. And hit us up because for $1, $3, $5, whatever level, that'll get you access to our Discord. We are on there all day Sunday answering your start sit questions. Come and bother me. Come and bother Mike. Come and bother Steve. And especially come and bother at that FF Nerd. He's lonely and he wants to talk to you. He wants to look at your team and then help you set these optimal lineups. It's what we're here for. It's what we do. And on our way out, hello, Chris. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. We're doing well. But yeah, with that, good luck, everybody. Week 1. Thank God football is back. Finally, we get to actually see some real games. And don't get cute. Start your studs. And until we talk to you next week, we'll be joined by a special guest. Keep up the nonsense.